Okay, this is part 2 of my video about the soloist, where I left off talking about the intervention stage and treatment planning. With dealing with this family, the family, as it was said in the movie, consisted of Steve Lopez, who had became Nathaniel Ayers' friend, and eventually his sister, I do believe, who came back into the picture after being gone some time. So with treating this family, one step that I would take would be to use a team approach. I would use the team approach because it is quite apparent that with schizophrenia disorder that he would need some type of medication. So the team approach would be needed to get medical doctors in, psychologists, psychiatry in, so that he can get on those medications and on those medication regimens and get started in that so that he can be in a lucid state to, actually even begin therapy. I will also use a team approach with possibly a mirror, a one-way mirror, to get feedback on his functioning during sessions. I think having that panel of peers to be your eyes and ears and see things that you don't see would also help this family. One of the people in the movie made a great statement by, he said he just needs a friend. He doesn't need you to force him to do anything. So that would be the main thing. And actually Mr. Ayers had an outburst because he felt like he was being forced into treatment. So that would be the main thing that would need to be addressed in the very first meeting, would be to get him to a state where he actually trusts me, where he understands that I'm on his side, that I am also his friend, that I am also there for him, and that we are only going to do what he wants to do and what he approves of, that the sessions are completely and totally in his control, that he doesn't have to do anything that he doesn't want to do. So that would be the first essential step in starting any treatment with him, that joining process, and making sure that that is done at his pace and at a stage that in a way that he can manage and he can handle, being that he has those social interaction deficits. Also, even with the social interaction and the communication deficits that he does have, he was lucid enough. I remember Steve asked him, what is the one thing that you would want? If you could have one thing in this world, what would it be? And at that point, he was working with a violin that only had 2 strings. And he said that his one dream would be to have those strings fixed. So that lets me know that he is lucid enough to set goals for himself. So I would use the use of those goal questions to help facilitate his treatment and help get him to a stage where he can be a healthier version of himself. Those kind of scaling and miracle questions. If you can have anything that you want, what would it be at this particular point? Like he said in the movie, he answered, I would want the strings on my violin fixed so that I can play one of Beethoven's concertos that he could not finish because he was missing those strings. So not being able to go through that function and get that movement out of his system was causing him distress. So that would be one of the things that would be focused on in his therapy session, making sure that he got the necessary materials that he needed to play. Also, that what I saw Steve Lopez doing that was pretty good was the kind of give and take. You know, can you come and stay in this apartment? Can you come to this safe place to play your cello? You can play this brand new cello, but I want it to be done in a safe place. So we're going to leave the cello here. You come here to play. That way I know you're safe while you're playing it. So that lets me know that he understands the scaling questions, and he would understand scaling questions, and he would be able to actively participate in scaling questions. If we were able to do this, could you do that? He would be able to engage in helping set those goals and helping redirect some of the problem behaviors that he have for more positive behaviors by using that kind of goal setting redirection questions. And so that would be one of the main things that I would focus on in session with him. Also, letting him hear what others thought of his music. Like, that seemed to kind of give him pleasure, to knowing that what he did pleased others. So that would be my kind of thinking behind using the one-way mirror with the peer review back behind the mirror, so that they can give him that positive feedback. We think you're doing great. Yes, we think you can. We know you can do this. We see the skills that you need to accomplish this task already in you. And the one-way mirror would also give him the advantage of having some space in between him and the other people that he has not already let into his system. So that would be that buffer that he needs to kind of feel safe to. So I would also do that. Most definitely, like I said earlier, you would want to get those medical doctors and psychiatrists in so that he can get on the medications that he would need to kind of help with the voices. And that would be because one thing that he was adamant about was not being committed. So with his need to and his want to be independent, it would be about regulating and getting his medication to a point where he could be on the medication and still be lucid enough to be independent and function independent without help, and be his own man and stand on his own 2 feet. So that concludes my diagnosis and my kind of treatment plan for Mr. Ayers. Just kind of a quick summary. Diagnosis would have been autism spectrum disorder with some slight attention deficit and schizophrenia. And those were qualified by his emotional outbursts, his hearing of the auditory hallucination, his visual hallucinations, his emotional violent outbursts, his sensitivity to touch, his repetitive speech patterns, his excessive compulsion to clean and have things a certain way, his intolerance for certain stimuli like the smoking, was really, he had an intolerance to smoking and people smoking. His single-minded focus on the music, and using that music as his language and his way of interacting socially. Of course, those social deficits, where he had the parallel communication and wasn't able of being in a positive communication loop with people. And the attention span with the rambling and the inability to stick with one subject. And treatment model that I would use would be, like I said, the solution focused therapy, which would set goals with him and focus on becoming one with him and engaging him and letting him be an active participant and guide his own treatment, and make sure that he is a willing and guiding participant the whole way. Also with the solution focused therapy, using his music as a means of effectively treating him, using his strengths, playing to his strengths to help him with his deficits. Also, making sure, like I said, making sure you're joined with him and he knows that you're there for him, not trying to take over, not trying to force him into doing anything, but that you are there for him and at his discretion. Also, the use of a panel to give him that positive reinforcement, positive feedback, because that seemed to give him some pleasure knowing that he something he did could cause positive reactions with someone else. Also, getting psychiatrists and medical doctors involved, getting that medication regimen started and regulated to a point where he can be independent, because that was one of his main focus, was being independent and being able to stand on his own. So that would also be a focus of therapy, making sure that he stayed independent and stayed in control throughout the whole treatment process. So that was my criteria, and again, that was for the movie The Soloist, starring Jamie Foxx as Nathaniel Anthony Ayers Jr. and Russell Crowe as Steve Lopez. Thank you for listening.